And welcome to the LOOPCast. Today, joined by Josh and Erika, and we actually started at 11 today. Congratulations to us.
Yeah, good
That's not
job,
going to
us.
become a trend of us starting a little bit late. Hopefully not. To give some perspective into behind-the-scenes LOOPCast, Erika came on to the studio sounding like she was a chipmunk, and
I did.
then we
Then I
adjusted
transitioned.
something. With
Oh my!
I don't know about that. And then all of a sudden,
I
she
really
sounded
did.
like she'd been on testosterone for 6 months. So
Yeah.
we evened it out. She's locked and loaded.
I feel like a normal woman now. Thank
Josh
you.
looks like the crocodile hunter today, going with the tan. You just need a bucket hat. And he's a beloved character. Many would say things have gone downhill since Steve Irwin has passed away. So thank you for bringing that back.
It's true.
What can I say?
How are we feeling today?
We're going to wrestle some crocodiles in my normal voice.
That's what I like to hear. So
I think it's a great day. I mean, it's fun. You know, it's less than 2 weeks to go to the election. It's go time. I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
And by the way, so many interesting things are going on. Like we had, Sister Peace and Justice. She was on stage with the warmonger, So
Oh, yeah. The Thomas
crazy.
More of our
Strange
age.
time.
Straight out of A Man from All Seasons, according to news pundits. Yes, I'm talking about Liz Cheney, but I'm saving it. Save all my thoughts on Dick Cheney made money off the Iraq war and all the things around that. But hey, first off, welcome to everyone in the chat. Thank you guys for hopping in. See a lot of new places. We're always looking for niche countries around the world to join us, as I think we had Lithuania, Italy.
Yeah, really
Zimbabwe?
need a map on
Zimbabwe.
the board, so throw another dart on it when you get it.
Throw another dart on it. But actually, before we get into the main story here, which is is a humdinger, Josh. So we're 2 weeks away. Have you been tracking any of the early voting totals? I've been finding that kind of interesting. I actually did an interview with Ryan about that, but that'll come out this week.
Yeah, I mean, so Donald Trump, in the immediate aftermath of the 2020 election, was castigating and downgrading and attacking all forms of early voting or absentee voting and all that kind of stuff, and said you should only be voting on election day. And there's a lot of people that still would like that to be the case, but that's not the country we live in anymore. And so Republicans have embraced the idea of voting early. And in fact, just about every state now we see in Pennsylvania, Nevada, all these states where, not just Florida, Republicans are coming out in droves to vote early, which is really good to see. The question is, is it going to increase the overall turnout amongst Republicans or not? How will independents vote? So it's, is it just that people are deciding to vote 2 weeks early, or are we going to have more actual Republicans who vote? And how are the independents going to swing? So these are good signs. If the Republicans are happy, Democrats are panicked, but it's not a guarantee lock either way is kind of my point.
Especially in Nevada. I saw the Nevada numbers were pretty shocking. I think it was a 7% swing from Democrat to Republican in terms of early voting. Because certain states you can see what the party affiliation is. Other states you can't. Pennsylvania, I don't think you can. Nevada, you can. So
you can't in Michigan, but what you can do is, I think you might be able to in Pennsylvania, but you certainly can't in Michigan because you're not registered as a party. And so, even when I go over to vote in my primary, I can either vote on the Republican ballot or on the Democratic side, but you can't crisscross during the primary. And they don't know how you vote. It's not like you register as a member of that party in my state of Michigan. So all you can kind of gather is and say, well, Emmett County, where I live, is like 2/3 Republican. And so if the number of early votes have increased in that county, well, that would probably be good for Republicans. But that's all you can kind of figure out. It's not a lock. It could be that the 1/3 of the people in my county who are super Democrats are the ones who are coming out to vote. You don't know. So Sometimes you kind of you can make generalizations, but it doesn't change the fact that even if you have more Republicans, let's say, voting in Nevada than ever before, if the independents swing for Kamala, you can still lose that state. So again, why do we care so much about early voting? Because if you lock in that vote, then the campaigns aren't going to spend money trying to convince you to go out and vote. They're going to focus on the remaining people, so they have less of a burden and they can focus their attention on those people.
And you'll get less annoying texts.
You will get fewer texts. I have seen I have seen a decline in the number of text messages I have received. I can guarantee you that
Yeah.
All
since
right.
I voted over 2 weeks ago.
Sorry,
Well,
Erika,
I'm
what were you saying?
scheduled to vote tomorrow, and I'm very excited to stop getting all the texts. That'll be really fun.
You
Really
may still get
excited.
some text. I mean,
The no system's perfect, right? But Josh, I did have a question about the early voting. So on Morning Wire, over at Daily Wire this morning, one of the commentators made a remark that if enough people did early voting, we might actually know outcomes in certain states before election day itself. Is that actually true, or is there no way you can
I
actually
mean,
do
maybe
that?
Florida, but the problem actually, I mean, there's one side effect of voting early in that some states, like Pennsylvania, they can't even open up the envelopes until election day. And so
They can't even count the votes, right?
not even open up the envelopes is
Yeah.
my point. And
Okay.
then they have to wait till after the polls close before they can count them. See, here in Michigan, we can't open them up until I think the day before or maybe the morning of, but we can at least run them through the machines and start counting them right away. So Pennsylvania might take them a really long time to count their ballots, but I have a feeling based on the trajectory of things are going, it may not matter because I think things are slipping away for Kamala Harris. I think her campaign is really sputtering right now.
Yeah, the momentum
Anything can change. Obviously, it's a presidential campaign, but it's hard to turn on a dime with 13 days to go. She's not in a good spot.
Well, so
Yeah.
she took a day off today, apparently. Her
Well,
campaign said
yesterday,
she's
yeah,
off.
she did.
Yesterday, she took the day off.
Yeah, she had
Which is
Obama step up.
exactly what you should do 14 days out.
Yeah, and you know what's funny? I mean, we're talking about media bias today, of course, and really just in terms of the vibe as an official term has definitely felt Trump. Trump feels like he's had the momentum for last week. He's been all over the headlines. He's all anyone could talk about. I mean, that's important at this point in the election. It's obviously not hard stats, but if you look at it anecdotally, it's good. And this is one of the first, I think, negative hopefuls of the Democrats that they were really going to hope was going to land. And what I'm talking about here is this story from The Atlantic. And, you know, I get to bring up the fun, scary picture that came with it. We have, I need the kind of generals that Hitler had. Trump's obsession with dictators and disdain for America's military are deepening. And this is from Jeffrey Goldberg. He is an editor at The Atlantic.
He's the editor.
He's editor at The Atlantic.
The senior dude.
And for those who, Jeff Goldberg, that rings some bells. Mm-hmm. It's the same Jeff Goldberg that came up with the suckers and losers line about him talking about the military. It is also the same Jeff Goldberg that wrote an article called The Great Terror, saying that Saddam Hussein had possible ties to al-Qaeda based off of a source who was a known serial liar. So not a great track record in terms of sourcing. And just to go over what the summary of the article is before we get into how quickly it was refuted. Quote, the start of the story focuses on Vanessa Guillen, a 20-year-old Army private. She was murdered by a fellow soldier in Fort Hood, Texas. So Trump hearing about this, there's obviously a lot of energy. People were trying to come up with legislation. It was really a shock to the system because there was another soldier. They killed another soldier, especially a female soldier. There's implications with all of that. So Trump invited the entire Guillen family to the White House. He spent time with them. And he even went as far to say, I'll help pay for your funeral. Whatever it takes, we want to take care of you. Very gracious. And even in the article, this was here. But eventually you get to the key line. According to attendees and to contemporaneous notes of the meeting taken by a participant, notice no names, an aide answered, yes, we received a bill for the funeral. It cost $60,000. Then an anonymous source said, Trump became angry. It doesn't cost $60,000 to bury an effing Mexican. He turned to his chief of staff, Mark Meadows, and issued an order. Don't pay it. That was the start of the article. It went on to continue to kind of grind this axe with Trump in the military. And for those paying attention to what's going on in the media, one of the latest attack lines is he's going to somehow weaponize the military or the National Guard against the American people,
right.
Politically persecute as well, which is hilarious for anyone with a memory beyond 2 years. But yes, that's the latest attack line. So usually with these articles, and I actually want to get your perspective, Josh, because you've been in reporting and news for
yellow journalism.
I think I saw it usually takes 48 hours for a fudge article to kind of be debunked or people to come out and say something's going wrong. I personally have not seen an article get this quickly debunked, refuted so soundly by all the sources involved in 2 hours.
Yeah.
That's the advantage. I mean, like, when you think about it, like Dan Rather did that, made up story about this letter that he got from the National Guard against George W. Bush, from this letter from 1971. And it took like 48 hours, but people crowdsourced it on the internet, and they're like, wait a minute, that there was no typewriter that had that font face. I mean, like, they just nailed it. Like, and someone literally took it on their Microsoft Word and got the same document, like, in style. Like, literally somebody just made this like last week. You guys are full of crap.
Right.
But again, it took like 48 hours for, all that kind of stuff to materialize before people go, wait a minute, what's going on? In this case, you have the sister go, yeah, this is total baloney, and you're politicizing my sister's death, and this is totally shameful.
I actually have the response. So you get the smear, and first off, shout out to Thunder B, avenged them at Pimpernel 13, did a great job of breaking down what happened here. So right after this article drops, almost immediately, you get from the sister of the soldier who died, wow, I don't appreciate how you are exploiting my sister's death for politics, hurtful and disrespectful to the important changes she made for service members. President Donald Trump did nothing but show respect to my family and Vanessa. In fact, I voted for Donald Trump today. And this is the family at the center of this article. You get a refutation from Comms, I believe. This was Comms for Mark Meadows.
Right.
On the left, I sent The Atlantic a comment saying President Trump absolutely did not say that, referring to the alleged comments about Mrs. Guillen that they printed. On the right, Atlantic translated that comment to, quote, didn't hear Trump say it. Treat this dishonest piece accordingly. And this is worth digging into. So usually with these hit pieces, as I understand, reporters or whoever's going to read this article will reach out for comment from people involved in this story. And a lot of times people submit a text or an email. And unfortunately, I've seen too many times stuff being taken on this and then a reporter taking gross liberties to just insert it into the story however they see fits the narrative. And in this case, he's responding here over text. That is not true. Ben Williamson, spokesperson for Mark Meadows. You get this text here. And then in the article, he provided statements from Patel and a spokesperson for Meadows who denied having heard Trump made the statement.
I mean, that is some twisted reporting, right?
No,
there.
That's just a lie. That is just a damned lie. That you are lying. That's not, he did not deny hearing it. He's like, he didn't say I didn't hear it. He said that he didn't say it.
Right.
There's two different things, and they are lying through their damn teeth.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, not the only one too. I mean, you get the interpreter speaks up who was present there on the day. I was at President Trump's meeting with the Guillen family because I assisted with the translation that day. President Trump was genuinely concerned about Vanessa Guillen and appalled by the tragedy the Guillen family were enduring. So he's saying that it's a lie. You get the grieving family's lawyer, the lawyer gets quoted in the story as saying that he didn't pay for any of it. I think was specifically what the citation was. It said, after having dealt with hundreds of reporters in my legal career, this unfortunately is the first time I have to go on record and call out Jeffrey Goldberg at The Atlantic. Mm. Not only did he misrepresent our conversation, but he outright lied in his sensational story. More importantly, he used and exploited my clients, Vanessa Guillen's murder, for cheap political gain. I would also like to point out the timing of this story is quite suspicious, as this supposed conversation that Trump had occurred over 4 years ago. Right. Why a story about it now? As everyone knows, not only did Donald Trump support our military, he also invited my clients to the Oval Office and supported the I Am Vanessa Guillen bill too. I'm grateful that we were successful in getting bipartisan support of the I Am Vanessa Guillen Act, and because of everyone's hard work and efforts, our service members now have more protections and rights while serving in our country. So now you get the lawyer speaking out on it too. I mean, just about everyone, even involved with this story, is saying, yeah, that's a lie. That's not true. It's like hard to imagine this is even still up right now.
The Atlantic.
The Atlantic, that great paragon of journalistic integrity.
They're not sending their best.
Brought to you by the AR-15 article, the rosary as a weapon.
Oh, yeah, right.
Used by extremists. I mean, the thing that really, this is awful. I mean, and you brought up Dan Rather of CBS fame with the fake documents and going after George W. Bush. And he lost his job over that. And for years, though, he held out that he was the victim of some subterfuge at CBS and that he should not have been fired, because basically the argument boiled down to, for Dan Rather, if I remember correctly, George W. Bush was a bad, bad man. And so I was absolutely justified to bring up any kind of, fake story to damage him, to keep him from staying in power. And I think that is exactly the same pattern that we're seeing with so much of the media today. This man, the Atlantic should absolutely fire him. Will they? I don't even know if they have the amount of integrity CBS had back in the day with Dan Rather. He has an amazing amount of power. He curates what ends up on the Atlantic's homepage. The Atlantic is kind of like the Eastern elite coast, like go to. We have
You
a
got
prop. We have a prop. The purpose of a system is what it does.
Well, Josh or Erika, you always bring this up too. Show me the man, I'll show you the crime.
Exactly.
And okay, from a reporting perspective too, like I didn't go to Big J journalism school. I don't understand how people could. So the crux of this article, all of his charges are from anonymous sources. And it was the same thing in that Great Terror article in 2002. The source they end up finding out they knew was a liar, but the suckers and losers line that was used as a smear against Trump in 2020
it's still being used.
Still from an anonymous source.
You know why? There is a market for this.
Mm-hmm.
You can create any pure fiction lie about it. Just say Trump said X, something egregious. Just make it up out of thin air. You could say he walked down this Pennsylvania Avenue and shoved a kid into a car, and people would believe it. People hate Donald Trump so much, they will believe any lie. It just doesn't matter. And if someone comes out and later and shows that, no, that's not true. He wasn't even in the city of Washington at the time. He was across the country. Probably happened another day. It probably happened. There's a good 20% of the U.S. population that has massive Trump derangement syndrome, and they any lie about him, any egregious thing you say, it will just be believed.
Right, and that's back to the Dan Rather point that like the facts don't matter once the headline is out there, once the little snipe is out there, you can do all the fact checking you want and you can explain rationally exactly why this is not true. The damage is done. And that's what I find so hard to forgive with these people. And yes, I'm a Christian, I'm working on forgiving and all that, but you still have to say the truth. And the truth is that these lies have done so much damage to our country, it's divided families. It has lost friends for people. I mean, I think of my own family and, some people on it, they watch CBS Evening News. And what's her name? Norah O'Donnell. Yeah, Norah O'Donnell.
She was one of the debaters.
She was one of the debate moderators. But after this had been debunked on Twitter,
like
ad nauseum, she goes on that last night and leads with this story. There she is. After it has been debunked, and here's the thing. This was my favorite line from the Dan Rather. I hate to keep going back to this, but this was so good. Do you remember the New York Times headline around that, Mercer? Do you remember what it said?
I do not.
It said that the letter was fake but accurate.
Oh, yes, that's the point I was trying to make.
That was the New York
fake
Times
but accurate
headline.
Yes.
Fake but accurate.
Yes.
See that? And what's
that's what? And the fact checkers have run with that. Well, it's technically false, but it's kind of.
Well, this reminds me of the Hunter Biden laptop fiasco as well, right? It's like, Russian disinformation.
4 years ago this week, I believe. Was it 4 years ago this week?
And I imagine this has got to be frustrating for anyone in public life, of course, but of course, Donald Trump being kind of the center of most of this. So is this a journalism, like at the Atlantic level, they shouldn't tolerate this, or is this a legal problem? Because it feels like this is libel. And unless you can actually prove with sources that something is said, if you just throw it out into the ether from a quote unquote reputable source, it's almost like the genie's out of the bottle, right? I've heard the suckers and losers line quoted back to me as if it's God's honest truth from grandparents. Like my legitimate members of my family have said this. Right. And I'm like, you guys know, name the source. There is no source on it. People believe it's true. So do you have to then sue for libel afterwards? And then it's almost too late. Like it feels like the punishment isn't severe enough for like legitimate news organizations, quote unquote news organizations, running with things that there's no sourcing for.
I'm with you on that. I'm with you. Look, like I'm a big fan of the Wild West of Twitter right now, but only because the alternative is the uniparty media mouthpiece, right? I do believe there should be accountability and rules for journalists. That unfortunately, those were so they've been so disregarded because there's no internal moral compass for people in this industry at the level of CBS, ABC, NBC at this point, that we need the Wild West of Twitter land right now just to be able to at this point, I'm like, throw it all out there, the wheat and the chaff. But at the same time, it's dangerous to me because we have a populace that is less educated than ever before. I mean, Americans come out of the school system and they can't think. They don't know what a good source looks like. They don't take the time to look into
Critical
it.
thinking is at an all-time low.
All-time
actually,
low.
Erika, I have to give credit. Elon Musk made sort of this point yesterday. He said, Democrats greatly outspend Republicans. Most people don't even realize that, but in the last few election cycles, Democrats are raising tons more money. So this is Elon Musk yesterday. He says, Democrats greatly outspend Republicans, have 90% of legacy media and online media on their side, 90% of Hollywood celebrities, and a massive number of organizers on the ground. Frankly, it's surprising Republicans win at all.
Yeah, it is. That's why we need to win.
So
like, I'm not tired of winning.
And then the icing on the cake for this segment too is, so of course the libel's ridiculous, and it is, Twitter's a huge benefit because you can actually see it refuted by family members. And Mark Meadows himself said this didn't happen. I mean, the literal general at the time was like, yeah, this didn't happen. What?
The one place where people can clear the record, right, Tom?
Exactly.
Right.
And so that's going on. But the attack line still stands, and they're still pushing on this Trump being extreme, military, or whatever. This didn't get enough coverage. This just came across my desk. Here's President Biden. President Biden, just listen to this clip.
This is in New Hampshire.
Talking about doing away with the entire Department of Education. He's talking, he means it. This is not a joke. This is a guy who also wants to replace every civil servant, every single one. Thinks he has a right under the Supreme Court ruling on immunity to be able, if need be, if it was the case, to actually physically eliminate, shoot, kill someone who he believes to be a threat to him.
What?
I mean, so I know this sounds bizarre. It sounds like I said this 5 years ago.
Because it's a lie, yeah.
Because you're lying.
We got to lock him up.
What?
Oh my gosh.
Political document.
I love that he
the Democrats
lock him up.
Okay, so I actually think, again, he's not doing Kamala any favors by saying that. I think he's intentionally doing that to undermine her campaign. But I will say this: the presidential immunity thing keeps getting kicked around, and people, another one where people will intentionally deceive people. So what presidential immunity, what they're getting at here is that neither, if the president of the United States, in this case Joe Biden, if he decides to travel to, let's say, rural Texas, there's no way that a rural district attorney could just arrest him and trump him up on charges and throw him in jail. It's like, no, you don't get to do that with the president of the United States. There's presidential immunity. If he's committed a crime, it's okay. So it's a little bit different thing. Like diplomats can commit crime and then we have to deal with their home country. We don't throw them in jail. There's diplomatic immunity. Well, presidential immunity is similar, but it's different. So basically, if Joe Biden killed somebody, murdered somebody in cold blood, the local district attorney doesn't throw him in jail. That's not how it works. He's the president of the United States. We do not allow local district attorneys to throw our presidents in jail. There's a good reason for that. If he did commit murder, then it's very simple. You go to the House and Senate and say, remove this SOB. I mean, it's not that hard. It's not like he can get away with whatever he wants to get away with. So I hate it. The number of lies, lie, all the darn time. It drives me. I used to have hair.
Well, and I'm watching that clip and everyone in the room starts applauding and laughing. It is not a laughing matter when the sitting president of the United States, the leader of the free world, is just throwing off the cuff, we need to jail my political opponent, not even his anymore because he's not running. But you should be getting chills. Everyone in that room should have been like, bridge too far. You're the president. Cringe. And so they're like, yeah.
I like Josh's theory though, that he's still kind of because what is this?
Yeah, 4D chess from the cadaver in the White House.
Chess.
I don't know.
What does this do?
Maybe.
It takes away the attack line again. Because if you're threatening to do the same thing that you're accusing Trump of doing, not even threatening.
That's just going to rally Trump's voters more,
exactly.
Right? That's exactly the effect it's going to have. And so I think Biden's okay with that effect.
Exactly. So
you push me out. And the thing is, it's a great way because you're like, dude, I was trying to rally our team. Like, he should be thrown in jail. So, like, who's going to disagree with him? It's the great way to do it, to run interference in a way that they can't really get at you for it.
Is Janet in the chat?
My mom is in the chat, confirmed.
Hey, Mom.
Anyone wants to say what up to my mom?
All right.
She is in the chat.
If my mom was in the chat, she'd be yelling at all of us.
Yeah.
I do not share this with her. I love you, Mom.
Okay, so before we get into the next news hits, hey, something you guys can do to help us out. Go ahead and leave a like here on this episode. Helps boost us up. Subscribe if you're not subscribed. And Apple Podcasts and Spotify, leave us a review. Thank you for all that you guys do for the show.
Oh, and we have an event coming up, right? We're having an event election night. Stay tuned for that.
Oh, yeah,
It goes
yeah,
like
for sure.
we do.
We're working on it.
Yeah.
We'll be there. We'll be there to provide Josh's expert coverage. The vibes will be high. We're hoping for a good night. We'll be live to open up the chat. It's gonna be great. An election night. We do have coverage, so we'll get all that out there. We'll make sure everyone knows about it, and it's gonna be awesome. Super fun. So we go into news hits now, and the one that really jumped off the clip. So Kamala Harris did take a break from campaigning. 14 days out after accusing Trump of having no energy, which is just awesome.
And Erika's right. Today, too.
Yeah.
Today, not campaigning.
Yeah.
Because she's prepping for an interview tonight. So, like, no campaigning, no rallies.
She
has
does
to like get her pedicure and like have her smelling salts and candles.
She needs all the prep she can get because
apparently
she sat down with a reporter from NBC, and something immediately jumped off the page. There's a few here that I'm going to get into, but one that definitely has to do with Catholics. So we're going to show that one quick, and we'll get into that.
Concessions would be on the table. Religious exemptions, for example, is that something that you would consider?
I don't think we should be making concessions when we're talking about a fundamental freedom to make decisions about your own body.
To Republicans like, for example, Susan Collins, Lisa Murkowski, who would back something like this on a Democratic agenda if, in fact, Republicans control Congress, would you offer them an olive branch, or is that off the table? Is that not an option for you?
I'm not going to engage in hypotheticals.
Whoa. What did she just say that?
Well, her point is, she doesn't want to have to bargain. I actually don't have a problem with the second part. You don't negotiate ahead of time. You go for what you're trying to get. She doesn't want to have to water it down. But make no mistake, Kamala Harris thinks Catholic hospitals should be forced to kill unborn children. She thinks Catholic doctors and Catholic nurses should be forced to participate in the murdering of little babies in the womb. So if you vote for Kamala Harris, you support that. You can't pretend like, well, I don't personally support abortion. Yeah, actually, if you support her, you personally support abortion. Mm-hmm. Yep, that's what that means.
But I noticed that, like, America Magazine and National Catholic Reporter have been kind of quiet.
David French has been a little quiet today, too.
Yeah, where's David French talking about?
Are you kidding me? Where's David French? He's probably writing an article right now talking about the conservative case for forcing people to commit abortions. Come on, David French is a piece of work.
Good catch.
Okay, I might have baited Josh for just dropping the little name there.
Nailed it.
That's awesome. Nailed it.
Yeah, but it is kind of rich.
In fact, at this point, we should change his name because calling him French is actually an insult to the French people. I don't hate them that much. It's not even fair.
So this is kind of rich considering that a lot of like left-leaning Catholics have recently been really attacking Trump for not being pro-life anymore, I think was the term.
Right.
Although I have not heard Trump say that he would make Catholic hospitals perform abortions.
Of course not. I mean, did you see this too? That am I interrupting you too much? I tried to do that more this week.
Well, no, Josh,
great.
if I could, the context on the longer clip, because I saw that and I was like, okay, there's probably more to this, right? So the initial question talks about how Roe v. Wade is gone and how Americans view healthcare, reproductive rights, reproductive healthcare, whatever, fun name for abortion, as central to themselves and the country. And what are you going to do basically to provide that? And what are you willing to do to provide that? Because she said that Republicans, if she wins, most likely are going to have a majority in Congress, and it's going to be hard to pass anything legislatively. So, what concessions are you willing to get something on the table? Was the full question. And she, of course, went on her pre-canned answer of, well, here's an example. Trump placed 3 people to get rid of Roe v. Wade. People are dying in Texas because of the abortion law, yada, yada, yada. But then she got pressed again. And when she was pressing on what concessions are you willing to make, you get that kind of gotcha line, which even if used right now by the right as kind of a hammer of like, even the wording of that was suspect, even if she didn't reveal truly what she thinks on it, I mean, her record kind of speaks for itself, does it not? I mean,
Right.
her treatment of David Daleiden, her record in California. I mean, she is the most radical pro-abortion candidate we've probably ever seen in this country.
I know they keep one-upping each other every time, and she's the first that's actually visited an abortion facility where
She's proud of it.
a place where they killed them. She's like, I am so much in favor of abortion. I'm going to go to a place where they kill children. Like, dude, this is crazy. So Ed Fazer had written an article, saying Trump has gone too weak, he's abandoned the pro-life cause, and initially said, Catholics shouldn't vote for him.
Yeah.
And then he kind of backed up a little bit and said, well, I live in California. I'm not going to vote for him, but maybe if you live in a swing state, I could see why you would.
Right.
And then in response to this clip, though, he had a little comment to say. He said, in referring to Kamala Harris, he said, cackling airheads can be tyrants too. To which somebody responded, so maybe one should vote against her ascension.
Did he respond yet?
We are awaiting a response.
All right. Come on, Ed. Ed does have, by the way, if you see behind my shoulder here, he did write a chapter in our book.
I like him. I like it.
Great thinker.
His
But
book of Capital Punishment is awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think a lot of people are going to watch that clip from last night. And yeah, they might get off, it might just move them to get their little booties off the fence and get down to the voting booth because and I think, so Cardinal Burke, I don't know if anyone saw this in the Loop this morning, but Cardinal Burke has offered some voting guidance to Catholics ahead of this election. And I really thought it was so articulate the way that he put it, that a Catholic response, he said, quote, and then this is about the question, has Trump abandoned the pro-life cause? Can we vote for someone who calls himself the father of IVF, blah, blah, blah. But he says, Burke warns, he says, if there is even the smallest ray of hope to effect some change in view of effecting an ever greater change for the common good, it is not right for us to fail in responding to the ray of hope. Only if no candidate provides any ray of hope of serving, at least in some part, the common good, especially when it pertains to human life, marriage, and the family and the practice of our religion, are we justified in not voting at all? I mean, that is strong words from Cardinal Burke, that just saying, well, I just won't vote for anybody this election because Trump. Those are I think interpreting them, obviously he's not saying go vote for Trump, but he's giving us a way to think about where we are right now as a country that is in keeping with our Catholic faith and our moral obligation to vote right now. And I would say it's pretty clear that the only candidate that, even with Trump, with everything he said about, pro-life, IVF, abortion, that there's more than a small ray of hope.
Yes.
Until Trump vans. I mean, we're looking at
restoring religious freedom.
During the First Amendment in our country, that would give space to the pro-life movement to actually make some cultural gains.
Yeah.
With Kamala, we are looking at just the decapitation of even the possibility of taking back this culture, because it will be lawfare all the way under a Harris Vance parents' walls administration.
Well, no, that's true. I mean, she talks about abortion as being a fundamental freedom, but she doesn't believe the First Amendment right to free speech is a fundamental freedom. So this is totally out of whack. I mean, imagine telling everyone, you have a constitutional right, a fundamental right to kill babies, but not to speak.
But
politically?
not to speak your mind or practice
if there's
your faith
anything in this
hospital?
country you have the right to, it's free speech. My goodness gracious.
Right. Otherwise, you get a UK situation where you can get arrested for praying. What's
praying
the nature,
silently.
What's the nature of your prayer? What an insane question. Okay, so
imagine if I went to England for a while.
I don't think you'd come back, bud.
Josh in Japan, Josh in England. We're starting a travel show for Josh. That's it. We're doing it. Josh with a little newsboy hat on would be adorable.
Josh.
It would be adorable.
We could call it Josh Contra Mundum, although that might be a little too much Latin.
Yeah, dude, a little high.
No, I am against the world. Let's go.
All right, so next one I have here is Kamala Harris on gender affirming care, and interesting answer.
Yeah.
On the question of your beliefs, what you believe in, let me ask you this question, very broadly speaking here.
Sure.
Do you believe that transgender Americans should have access to gender-affirming care in this country?
I believe we should follow the law. I mean, I think you're probably pointing to the fact that Donald Trump's campaign has spent tens of millions of dollars.
They're trying to define you on this.
Yes,
I'm asking you to define yourself, though. Just broadly speaking, what is your value? Do you believe they should have that access?
I believe that people, as the law states, even on this issue about federal law, that is a decision that doctors will make in terms of what is medically necessary. I'm not going to put myself in the position of a doctor, but let's also understand that Donald Trump is running tens of millions of dollars in ads to talk about 2 cases, to distract from the fact that his policy and plan is also to take away the Affordable Care Act, which provides health care for tens of millions of people in our country. That his plan is to undo the $35 a month cap on insulin, that it impacts millions of seniors in our country. That his plan is to do away with the $2,000 cap on prescription medication, the annual cap. That his plan is to get rid of the Department of Education.
Such a filibuster.
So, yeah. Go ahead, Josh.
I mean, we have this edification of doctors. I mean, look, I like my doctor, okay, but like this idea, like, I'm never going to get in the way of my doctor, of a doctor. Like, if a doctor suggests we should cut off the genitals of a 6-year-old boy, I'm like, yeah, that doctor should be probably put in jail. What a nut job! Like,
so, Josh, I think you're missing the point, though. This is example of an effective advertisement. Trump's clearly won in this issue. If she's too scared to give a praise point to gender affirming care and just say, I'm just going to follow the law, it's working. It's worked.
Thomas, don't forget, we aired our commercial first, and the Trump campaign saw it was working, and then they did theirs. I mean,
you're welcome.
Yeah. No, seriously, like,
actually, credit to Terry Schilling as well, who's done so much on this issue. God bless him and the work at APP, American Principles Project. They've been leading this, and so is Riley Gaines. By the way, why does this matter? Why is this issue resonating? What's the issue of trans surgeries on minors, as well as men or young, strong men, boys playing in girls' sports? That is not only, it's like amongst a lot of Black and Latino voters, they're like, they never really liked abortion, but it was only one issue. And then all of a sudden they realized trans too. Like, wait, what's going on? Like, the Democratic Party doesn't represent me, but it's also making big inroads amongst the one population that really doesn't like Trump the most, suburban women.
Me.
And they're like, I don't know if I want Lloyd playing volleyball.
Right.
So the gains that Kamala Harris is hoping to get in the suburbs, running up with, women who had voted Republican in previous elections, it's not doing so well. That's why she's trotting out Liz Cheney. Like, hey, look, I like the warmongers. Come on, you could vote for me.
It's country over party. Erika, sorry, do you have something you want to say on that?
No, I just echo what Josh says. I mean, the trans issue, and I think as soon as she said, I want to follow the law, that's just her code for, I'm not going to take a stand on this anymore. Whereas in the past, we know exactly where she stands on this issue because of the way she has acted, right? What she has done to further the chopping up of children in her time as AG, in the rhetoric that she's used at rallies for LGBTQ+A supporters. We know where she stands on this issue. And the fact that she would not just come out and proudly say it anymore, I think Tom's right. She's feeling the heat on it. She knows it's a losing issue for her.
That was a softball. That was a true. She even tried to rephrase the question again to make it softer and speaks to, I think, the
media. Please answer this question in a way that will assuage the concerns of independent voters so that you can get into office.
Tap dances around it. Like her feet, that's that movie with the penguins, the little baby penguin with the happy feet thing.
Happy Feet?
Every time she starts talking, I just see the little penguin's feet going.
Happy Feet does slap. That's a great movie. I was just talking about...
this is why Democrats are fearing that the race is slipping away from her.
Yeah. Disney... I was just... Total tangent. I was just talking to my wife about Disney princesses. What is the last culturally significant Disney princess, in your opinion?
Princess Leia.
But she wasn't. That's a recent. That's.
I just did a recent.
She is a Disney princess.
She is now.
It's either Moana or Frozen, right?
I guess I don't watch.
By culturally significant, you could be negative or positive. Is that what you're saying?
No, just in terms of like it actually made an impact beyond. Like,
I would say probably Elsa.
Yeah,
Frozen.
for
Okay,
sure.
yeah. And then and then I had to talk about how annoying it is to me that we make animated movies into live action remakes. I'm going to go on record here. I've never seen a good live action remake, precisely because it was animated and that's what's charming about it.
Okay,
When I
one
make something
exception.
What?
There is one exception to that. Kenneth Branagh's Cinderella. I think the live action Cinderella was actually better than the cartoon, mostly because they didn't sing all the songs. It was great. Kate Blanchett as the stepmother was amazing. Well, and they had a Shakespearean actor direct it. That probably helped. But I agree with you on every other count. Awful idea.
Yeah.
Have you seen Cinderella? Don't tell me you're judging and you haven't seen it.
I haven't, so I can't speak to that.
The cartoon I've seen.
Watch
Yeah.
it. You're going to be a girl dad. You're going to watch it. It's going to be awesome.
No, my daughter's gonna be hard, dude. We're not watching any of that. She's gonna
Yeah,
be
you say that now. That's what
raising
we
her
said.
with wolves.
At one time, this many years ago, but my older two daughters are putting on Barbie on TV, and I come in the room and I'm like, Charlie, Robbie, Johnny, what are you doing watching this stuff? But then again, I realize, I work in politics. I understand oppositional research.
Oppositional research. Okay,
Oppositional
that's what you want to go with. If that makes you feel better.
That's awesome.
He knows how to handle a gun better than I do, so I think we're fine.
Better than
Pogo's
certain
gonna watch-
senators too. By the way,
Pogo's
we'll
gonna
get
watch-
to that.
I want to talk to Pogo in 16 years when he has watched all the versions of Pride and Prejudice with his daughter, and
I have
it's gonna
three
be
daughters, and I've never seen one.
See, Pogo's
see
a little
about all that.
softer
Sorry.
than Mercer.
We'll see about all that.
Todd's now watched it like probably 4 times. So yeah. Anyway,
My
it happens.
Goodness.
We got to keep it moving. The only other big one on the interview front was she got really pressed about Biden's mental acuity, which I did not expect that at NBC. So good for her.
I didn't have an answer.
No,
I'll give her props on that. I've already heard her try to answer that. She is continually given bad ones. Another bad one on this one. So props on that one. We're gonna keep it moving. So I have a heartwarming thread. Then I have Obama. Then I have mailbag.
Let's do it.
Let's get into heartwarming first, okay? So, from Real Truth Cactus, it always is funny, like reading serious threads on Twitter from people with names like Real Truth Cactus. It always cracks me up. But anyway, this is just a cool thread. My husband and I visited a Catholic church as an outside Protestant who has only ever known Protestantism. I have some thoughts I'd like to share. The thing that sticks out in my mind was the absolute reverence of the Mass. The chanting was beautiful and melodic. The priest and his entourage, forgive me, I don't know what they're called. I kind of like entourage.
Yeah,
but
Entourage is cool.
that's sick. Demonstrated just, I don't know how to explain it, aside from pure reverence from God, Scripture, and Christ. Everything that occurred during the Mass evoked this feeling of what it might have been like to visit the tabernacle in Old Testament times with significantly less blood. The way they walked around the altar, the smell of the incense, the chime of the bells, made the entire scenery feel very holy. The congregation themselves, is that what it's called in Catholic spaces? Yes. Also approached the time with the same reverence. They dipped their fingers in the bowl of holy ? Water, made the sign of the cross, and knelt before taking their place in the pews. Outside, there was plenty of socializing and chatting, but once the sanctuary, even before the Mass began, people knelt, prayed, and were generally silent and deeply reverent. The only exception to the above statement were the children, and oh my goodness, were there so many kids. The tiny babies cried as you might expect, but the older kids did all the same things their parents did, and it was so incredibly heartwarming to see. They were coloring or goofing off. One kid even got excited for communion, the Eucharist, and asked, "Are we going to see Jesus?" It was really sweet. The announcements of the priest left me astounded by the spiritual fervor of this church. When Scripture tells us that we are in the midst of a spiritual battle, they take it literally. To combat the satanic church in the city, having a black mass on Halloween, this church is having a mass vigil all night to offer prayers for the city and for protection from this evil group. Now that is what I call a prayer warrior. Here's where I'm stuck. I am just blown away by it all. It's so different than anything I've seen in Christian worship, and yet somehow felt more real than any other type of worship I have been a part of because it really, truly felt like worship instead of trying to find the high of feelings that I feel like is more common in Protestant churches.
Ding, 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 ding,
Woo,
ding.
Maybe
nailed
I'm just doing Protestantism wrong, or
Mm.
maybe the Catholics have something right. But it was a fascinating experience, one that I shall have to think on and pray on for some time. We will likely go back to see if this same thought lingers, and it's not just a sense of awe at the sight of something different than what I've already known. Love to hear your thoughts if you've ever
I mean,
experienced
isn't
Catholic
that so
experience.
beautiful? And you just think to yourself, we have a Holy Father in Rome that absolutely would spit himself silly seeing this and would be so frustrated and angry at this, because he hates that. Like, that's not what he wants. He wants the bland Protestantism of our current Catholic Church, the Novus Ordo, the sappy music, all that garbage.
Why do you say that? I'm going to press you. Why do you say that?
Because the Pope considers the Latin Mass radioactive, and he's been trying to smother it and stifle it and suffocate it to death. That's why. I'm not even a Latin Mass guy. I don't go. I hear the pleas of my brothers and sisters in faith, and I've always thought, like, why is it that the bishops in our country and then now our Pope have such almost a violent negative reaction against the Latin Mass? I don't understand it.
I don't know. I don't know why. This reminds me of I loved this thread because of that outsider's view of something that I know as a Catholic. I am so grateful. I do not take for granted that I have access to a Reverend Novus Ordo and to an Institute of Christ the King parish, should that Novus Ordo go the way of the rest of them here in my particular neck of the woods. So we're really, really blessed to have that. And to hear from an outsider's description of what's going on, even with the cute, like, is that what Catholics do? Is that what we call it?
Entourage, baby.
It was entourage, baby. That's great. It was, again, it just helps you to see what you have with new eyes. And yeah, so I really appreciate that. I hope she goes back. I hope she does go back and continue to press into that and explore what's going on with the Catholic Mass there. I love it.
Real Truth Cactus.
Real Truth Cactus.
Come back.
I'm a longtime follower, and now I'm even more excited to continue.
It's also a great reminder, and sometimes I forget, as you're saying, that sometimes we do have people who are not Catholic attend Mass. Mm-hmm. And I almost don't think about that, because when I go and I kneel down, I'm a part of the congregation. That's the correct terminology, Real Truth Cactus. You kind of feel like one, and like everyone's doing the same thing, that everyone is Catholic. But that might not always be the chance or the truth. There might be people visiting or checking it out or not fully understanding. And it's just a great reminder. I appreciate the openness of this too, because I understand the tribalism. Like, if I went somewhere like a Protestant church and I found good things about it and I went online and said stuff, there'd be Catholics mad at me. So the openness to just say this out loud and express honest thoughts in a forum where you're probably going to get criticism, I really admire the courage of doing something like that. And who knows if Real Truth Cactus is an inside Catholic who's trying to troll on the internet. Who knows?
Oh, more 4D chess going on? I can't take that.
Tinfoil.
It's Tinfoil Tom for real.
That's right. But yeah, I appreciate the honesty. And it's cool reminder of, like, you said you don't take it for granted. I certainly don't take it for granted. And I'm really happy with whatever church they went to, clearly left an impact and are doing a great job. It sounds like it's in Arizona, would be my guess. With
Maybe
the Black
Atlanta,
Mass, because I think
there's one in Atlanta right now too.
I thought there was one going on in Phoenix because they have like the Satanists.
But it's just, the lived experience of the liturgy in the Novus Ordo Mass here in the United States is just such an impoverished liturgy, and it needs to be elevated, from this instant oatmeal. It's just
right. That was Benedict's whole point in bringing back Traditiones Custodes. Like, was that the one he wrote? Oh my gosh, my brain just stopped. But yeah, that was Benedict's whole thing, was that we should bring the Latin Mass.
No, you're talking about the opposite.
Francis needed that.
Okay, that was Traditionary. Sorry, guys, man, coming to the end of the hour here. Erika can't even. But that was the whole point, was that the experience of the traditional Latin Mass should enrich the Novus Ordo, and these two forms should enrich one another, and they can and they do, but not anymore.
I go to a phenomenal
Summorum Pontificum.
I go to a phenomenal Novus Ordo Mass.
Yeah, you have a great parish.
It's well done. It can be well done for sure, but
no eagle's wings here yet.
You will not hear any St. Louis Jesuit hymnals in my church. Okay, so we got the mailbag now, and you know what? Partially why I wear the sweatshirt. I already saw some people are upset in the chat.
Oh, hey.
I like to stir up the pot. Okay, I'm not even from Indiana, and my sister-in-law found this in a garage sale. And so I got it for free. And I'm like, I like to support the hometown team. I think they're undefeated right now for the first time ever. Great.
And they're ranked higher than Alabama.
So Indiana's up right now. I have basically no connections. Although
jump on the bandwagon there, Tom. That's what you do.
Right. Half of these. Shut up, Josh.
You weren't a Lions
I see
fan
what you're-
last year, but
Stop.
now you are.
What are you talking about?
I'm just going to drink my coffee now.
Go check the archives. But half of this office went to Purdue. Half the office went to IU.
Oh, Boilermakers.
And so I got some
Okay.
cheers when I walked in, and I got some booze when I walked in.
You
and
love
then
that.
it's the
You
best.
live off of that. That's great.
So guess what? We found someone that was offended, or maybe not offended by what we said, maybe a little bit offended, but took the time to write a counterpiece specifically on our thoughts on education. And I really I like this energy from people. Every time someone emails in with something like this, it fires me up. So I have a question now for the group. Dear all, I wanted to write in and say I truly enjoy the Loopcast. I learned a great deal about the church, politics, and current events while being entertained by the banter of the three of you. Glad you enjoy it. I may not always agree in such areas, as the older Marvel movies are where you seem to miss the pivotal theme of the struggle between freedom and security wrapped in nostalgic 1960s action and humor. And at least Erika gets the brilliance of Tolkien and the Lord of the Rings series.
I like this guy.
All right, we'll
stop,
just
Josh.
wait. The real reason I'm writing is that I have been a public school superintendent for 15 years and have been in public education for 25 years. Probably the only discussion topic that makes me want to turn you off is when you start talking education. Maybe I am missing something, but your views seem to be overly simplistic when discussing the single most important topic in American society outside faith in God and avoiding nuclear war. If I had to boil down your discussions, it seems that you land on homeschool equals good, most Catholic schools except the Jesuits equal good, all public schools equal bad. I think all of you should know better than to minimize a subject that is so broad and diverse into such simplistic terms. Just imagine if I used a social media forum that lumped all homeschool kids into the categories of lazy, socially awkward, and academically behind kids who only homeschool because the kids have more control over the household than their parents. While that might be my experience when they come back to us, you all should still be infuriated. Obviously, that is not the case for all homeschool situations because so many of them are good and needed, just like many public schools are filled with caring teachers and staff, and they are so needed for kids and families. Please don't lump everyone together, and we won't either. Better yet, come check us out. I think any one of the schools in our area and many across the country would make you think a little bit differently. I'm going to keep them anonymous. I really actually do appreciate this email, and it gives us an opportunity to kind of further talk about our thoughts and philosophies on education in general. And the queen of this, Erika Ahern, homeschooling mom, spent a lot of time in education, very intelligent. Erika, do you agree with that assessment?
So, yeah, I wish we had an hour to spend on this, honestly. But and I think that the format of Loopcast we do have to simplify a little bit sometimes, for sure. So, case in point, maybe we're overly simplistic, or we don't always put all the caveats on that we ought to. That being said, let's boil it down. So homeschool good, most Catholic schools except for Jesuits good. I think Josh, anyway. All right, all public schools.
I mean, if you ask my opinion, is that what you're doing?
Yes.
No.
I mean, my opinion would be homeschool equals good, most Catholic schools except for Jesuits equals good, and all public schools are bad. So go ahead. Go ahead, Erika.
Mercer says it. I love it. Yeah, no, I think that, okay, I acknowledge, of course, there are good people in public schools. There are teachers who are devoted to their students. There are students who are getting some form of good education. I mean, they come out, they test well, they get into college of their choice, blah, blah, blah. I've met kids at Hillsdale who were in public high schools. I've met kids at Thomas Aquinas who went to public high school. They're in the minority. But I think, though, that in sort of my basic approach is that the public school system is fundamentally flawed in its philosophy, in its approach to education. I do think that it is a case of it is a bad system in which there are good people and good things happen, as with anything. I think when it comes to homeschooling, and many Catholic schools, so not all, because some Catholic schools have gone the route of embracing the philosophy of the public school education. Those that have not, the classical schools, I think in that case, you have a good system and a solid approach to education and child development that sometimes has bad actors in it. So it's a question of these different, it's a different set of of issues, right? I think that public schools, especially after John Dewey in the 1930s and what was done to them, they've been co-opted by the Frankfurt School. There's this sort of even in a smaller public school, you have this approach to education where kids are put in classrooms with kids of their same age for 5 to 8 hours a day, depending on where you are and what kind of after school programs you have. And they're tested in ways that I think are in general inappropriate for second, third, fourth, fifth graders. I think that they're also beholden to state and federal mandates and regulations that are detrimental to education in themselves. So again, I am not arguing that there are no good people in public schools. I'm saying there are good people in a bad system, and it needs to be refounded. It needs to be fought at its roots.
It needs to be splintered through school choice.
Whereas with classical education, you have roots that are deep and good and rooted in human nature, not in John Dewey philosophy of pragmatism and progressivism and making everyone the same. And you might have bad teachers in classical school who need to be ousted, and they will be because they're generally run as meritocracies, which public schools are not generally run as meritocracies anymore. Again, always exceptions to the rules, but that's sort of how I see the approach. And again, I would love to have an hour on this and just go into the stats, go into like how I would back that up with evidence. I have anecdotal evidence, but I also have a lot of stats. So anyway, Pogo, why don't you interview me for LOOPCast one of these days, and I'll go through it all.
I say we bring on the superintendent and we have it out. I'm already seeing the YouTube thumbnail.
Right.
So there's a good friend of mine who taught at the public schools for 20 plus years. He's been a teacher. He's been an administrator. And he finally said, even though I would make so much more money for my family, and he's got 7 kids, even though I'd make so much more money if I just stuck it out another 2 years, because I would get, this much more for, retirement or whatever, pension. Mm-hmm. Yeah. He says, I can't do it anymore. Even in the very rural area of northern Michigan, he's like, it has become too crazy. And he decided to take a leap and become the principal of the small Catholic school in our town. And he has done fantastic work. And I would accept poverty level in my own family to make sure we wouldn't have to go to a public school. There's this notion that public schools aren't so bad in my area. It's the other ones are bad. Like, nope, yours is bad. Everyone's is bad. It's all mediocre. There's no moral formation at all. And, it's just like memorizing stuff. So are there good teachers? Yeah. Are there good students? Yeah. I mean, I went to public schools. I know what we're talking about here. It's a lot worse now than it was in 1995. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah. I mean, I had the experience. I went to both. I did public school my entire life up until my junior year of high school. And then junior, senior year, I switched to a hybrid model, homeschool, private school. And
me, it was all 19 years. Yeah.
Yeah. And again, it's
or
like
13 or whatever.
It would be great to bring back statistics and arguments, because I believe the statistics, and again, this is something you don't say in a debate, I believe the statistics. I mean, if you just look at federal level education statistics for public schools, they are absolutely, hard to even emphasize how bad, they're completely abysmal. And I see people bringing up 1960s, like, oh, they were so good in the 60s. Go look at reading lists in the 60s compared to now. It's completely different. And the Department of Education, the newest attack line on Trump too, is that he's going to get rid of the Department of Education. It's like, you can't make me vote for him any harder. Clearly, I can
only vote for him once.
Math, English, reading. Child safety now. The fights that are going on in these schools.
Right.
It's
bust up that monopoly. Give parents a choice.
There's exceptions. There's people that can work in. I'm sure this guy's a great superintendent and does great work. I have no doubt about that. But philosophically speaking, the difference between a classical approach to education and the modern create good citizens approach to education is that there's some type of eternal truth that is being revealed to us that we're chasing. So with the classical education, in my experience is we're not reading excerpts from a textbook put together by McGill. I'm reading what Aristotle had to say about life. I'm reading
Amen, brother.
Dante's Inferno. I'm reading that itself. It's going back to primary texts from the greatest thinkers that founded Western civilization. I think public schools used to do
People
that.
who knew how to tell a story.
Exactly. And I think public schools used to do that. And now you get, there's been so much activism in that space, and especially between unions and school boards and things like that, to where now you're just reading excerpts from a textbook that's been put together by people that at best you would call activists. And then also the attack on standardized testing. I think philosophically, like putting children in one school segmented by grade, there's a lot of issues that I have with that. It's funny, like the charges I think that were in this email was that they're socially awkward, lazy, academically behind. I would have to say that would be the minority of all homeschool people I know. Most homeschoolers I know are actually much more social. They're used to interacting with people with different ages, not just people in their own age. It's hard to be a lazy homeschooler at a certain point. I'm sure they're out there and the parents don't really care and they sift through. But everything, like when I was in high school, the only way for me to learn was if I did it myself. I remember sitting through public school, doing the absolute bare minimum, getting stuff spoon-fed to me, and I could get A's on stuff, and it wasn't even hard. Even the idea of the whole approach to education is just to get a good grade so you can get into a good college, so you can get into a good job, is completely anathema with the classical education project. Like the project is you're trying to understand truth. Capital T truth, something revealed to all of us. You find that through the greatest thinkers. It changes how you live your life. It doesn't change what college you go to. You're not doing it for a grade. It should change your perspective and how you approach, become a critical thinker, to be able to debate, to wrestle with big ideas on like what life is about.
Yeah, and I always say this, the point of education is to become a free man or a free woman, to be free of the state coming in and telling you what to think and doing everything for you and telling you what you should say, what you should even think about your own constitution and your own rights and your own dignity. It's to free you from the mob mentality and rule. That's why it's called liberal arts. That is something that has absolutely been lost from the modern education industrial complex, is this idea that it exists to free you from the industrial complexes of medicine, health, all the government, the military, all of that. It's to free us from that. That's the point of education. And again, yes, there can be good people and good teachers who are in the public school system, but they are hamstrung by the conviction. But the whole system is designed to raise like denizens of the state, really. This is like, we want everyone to be the same.
Docile drones
who are going to say, my biggest goal in life is the next thing. I'm going to get into the good college. I'm going to get a good job. I'm going to get a career and a promotion, and I'm going to be a good citizen and do, yes, sir.
Yeah.
And that's all the right hashtags.
I have a problem too with we briefly touched on this, but the incentive structure. And I think there's I talk about this on the show of like, we don't have to live this way type thing.
Right.
It does not matter if, only 30% of your kids are at reading level for their age, or they don't pass math. The same amount of money is going to be going to those schools because they're collecting them from your tax base.
It's just a formula, right?
It's a complete formula. That money's going to keep going in. And the solution always for teachers unions are what? Oh, we need more money. We're failing. We need more money. You're going to get money anyway. So that's why typically what I've seen is you get these charter schools that they don't have the luxury of getting a tax base gone to them every year. They have to perform. If people don't like the product, then you're going to fail as a school. You're not going to attract people.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
I just don't see enough.
Right.
That's part of the issue I have with the incentive structure behind public schools right now is we clearly have many examples of them failing. Again, not all of them. It's not happening everywhere, but enough to where it's raising alarm bells. And yet they're still in business. They're still getting more money than ever. And there's no real punishments to those schools other than, well, we need to give them more money instead of them going out of business. I don't think this is a novel argument. I think it's a pretty standard argument against the current public school system.
That's why funding should follow the student.
Exactly.
Yes.
That's why I'm very much in favor of school choice, because then you should be able to choose what you want to do.
We should fund students, not systems.
Right. You should choose if you want to go to public school. You should choose if you want to go to charter school. And then also the magic of that, right, is what's missing from public school right now. Any ability to talk about your religion freedom. Like freely discuss your Catholic faith. You could not do that. Think about all the lawsuits that have gone on over teachers having a cross in their room, talking about something. And of course, where do you see draped everywhere?
Or using
gay flags, LGBTQ. Right. That's all fine. But you can't use the Bible. You can't use this and that. I'm guaranteed that's not happening in Catholic schools because So that's
Well,
also part of it.
we have teachers right now from our public school system who are in legal battles because as Christians or devout Jews, they don't want to use fake pronouns for some kid who tells them, "Oh, I'm not a boy, I'm really a girl. You need to call me she, her, they, zy." And so this is actually happening to those good teachers in the public school system. And we have to be aware that this is really happening. And again, I just don't think like 8-year-old boys should spend 6 hours a day trying to, do what girls do, which is sit and color and do all sorts of little handiwork at desks. Like, I think they should have 2 hours maybe of work a day and then go run around outside and be feral, for lack of a better word. That's just how I run my house.
Feral homeschool children. Love it. Well, hey, I hope we haven't, we wanted to make a good argument back. Maybe we do a longer episode on this. Hope we haven't alienated you from the show. I do appreciate the pushback, but brief understanding of our positions and arguments. Hopefully that helps. So Twilight Zone now, I know we're a little bit over, but we run.
Oh, can I go first? Because mine was actually segueing on this. Okay, so I'm going to do my palate cleanser one because I feel like I'm tired of preaching about how bad the world is. This is what boys should be doing most of the day. And here we're going to play this. This is like based dad. He put up a Ninja Warrior course for his kid, for those of you on the audio. This is what boys should be doing. Let's play it.
3, 2, 1, go. Let's go, buddy. You got this. Come on, man. Quick. Yes, sir. Beautiful.
All right, he's on the bar. He's on the bar.
Let's link it out.
Whoa.
It's amazing.
This kid's flying.
Oh, wow.
Gorgeous, man. Gorgeous. Let's go. Finish. Hey.
Oh.
I want to see Josh do
There it
this.
is.
I'm putting it on
Yes,
record.
sir.
He hits the trigger. That was awesome. So see, if you were to send your young child out into the backyard with maybe one or two siblings, however many they are blessed with, and just say, okay, mommy's going to make dinner. You can't come back inside for 2 hours. I want you to build a Ninja Warrior course.
You didn't have to tell them when we were kids. You didn't have to say, "Don't come in." Moms would just say, "Go outside and make sure you're home before dinner arrives at sundown."
Josh, video
I get
idea.
not everyone.
LOOPCast has to do that course. We'll travel to wherever this is. We all do the course.
It was a great Ninja Warrior course. Super
It did look
fun.
pretty fun.
But anyway, you just give him a stick and tell him to go make. Oh, you're bored? I'm sorry. You're not a boring person. You can fix that. That's great. That's learning to live. That's life. That's my palate cleanser. It was so cute.
Thank you. Josh.
Well, we all know that liberals are the most tolerant people.
That's what they tell me.
They believe in civility and peace. So let's show this video of a woman coming up to somebody who has a Trump sign in their yard. And this is all recorded on their little Amazon Ring camera on the front porch. So let's just see what this lady has to say.
Ring camera has changed the game.
I want to know how you can vote. We can't answer the door right now, but if you'd like to leave a message, you can do it now.
Shameful. Are you the one that walks by here and always screaming at people?
No, I haven't walked by recently.
Okay, because a lot of people walk by and scream.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. You are voting for the devil. Don't you know that?
No.
Why are you voting for him?
Because I believe he is the moral candidate.
Oh, my God. F you for that.
Whoa.
Moral?
That's how your side acts.
Oh, my God.
That's
He's
how
the
you
most
guys-
immoral person around.
In your opinion, that's
Oh,
okay. Sorry, have a nice day. Have a nice day. God bless you.
God bless you.
Nothing like a good God bless you. They're back at it.
That's pretty special.
That was not my mom, I promise you.
But that's why I don't wear my Trump t-shirt out in the Connecticut wild, because I don't want my children to be subjected to that kind of language.
Yeah.
It just makes me want to go to that neighborhood with a big old red Trump hat.
Yeah.
Just sit out on the front lawn.
Just walk around. Hey, how's it going?
All right. So,
Roll Josh.
are you good? Because I've been waiting for this.
I can't wait. All right, bring it.
So first off, I'll just throw this out there. Dick Cheney made money off the Iraq war, okay? And Kamala has been a little bit low on celebrity endorsements, but the one that she's really been touting around these days is Liz Cheney. daughter of Dick Cheney, again, made money off the Iraq War. And there's so many elements to this. The power of the media to just lionize someone who I think, didn't Dick Cheney leave with an approval rating of 13%?
Yeah.
And he literally shot a guy on a hunting trip and never apologized about it.
Actually, the guy who got shot apologized to him.
Yeah. Okay. So, there's shooting going on, whatever. I see this news clip and I almost lost my mind. Who paid this dude to get on here and talk about this? But here we go.
She is a character almost out of the movies, out of A Man for All Seasons. I've never seen a more heroic figure than Liz Cheney. She lost her state probably forever. She lost her party. She lost her leadership in the Republican House. She could have been on her way to Speaker. It was very probable. She gave it all away in the interest of truth. That's what she stood for. It's amazing to me how few people have gotten behind her. But now, one person that's got behind her is Kamala Harris. And those sitting together, those two women, as you say, on that stage is remarkable because there's such courage there from Liz Cheney. And I cannot say anything that would stop me from saying she's been unbelievable.
Unbelievable's about right.
Did I miss the scene in A Man for All Seasons where Thomas More blew up Iraq and made money off it?
Yeah.
A Man for All Seasons they're comparing Liz Cheney to?
He's not Thomas More. She's Richie Rich. She's the guy who actually ends up selling his soul for whales. Wrong one, Chris Matthews. Wrong character.
There's a way to go on a talk show and say that you're happy that Liz Cheney endorsed someone. You don't need to call her Thomas More, okay? First off, she's not hurting for money. Mild estimate, $14 million. She's an heir to a family billion-dollar fortune off of Halliburton, which is still involved in Ukraine, by the way. So for those unaware of the Liz Cheney situation or the Cheney situation in general, Cheney basically got them to go into Iraq, blow it up, and then get paid to rebuild it and use his company Halliburton to take all the government contracts that they all underhandedly gave to him. Halliburton is still around and it's still involved in Ukraine to try to rebuild Ukraine after all the bombing. They're making money right now off Ukraine. Liz Cheney could have sat on an island and been totally fine for the rest of her life. The reason she's unpopular is because, first off, she was involved. She was in the Department of Homeland Security, I believe, involved in the Middle East during that bombing. And then she ran for House Senate in Wyoming, got primaried because she made her whole thing going after Trump and people hated her. So
she thought about running for Senate, realized it wasn't going to happen. Then she tried to stick in her House seat and then lost that, which was nice.
Right. So it's nice to see some retribution. I don't think it was out of any moral courage she threw her weight behind Kamala Harris. She's doing it for attention, obviously, because she has nothing else going for her because she's been kicked out everywhere. And then the most Cheney part of this story, okay, so Liz Cheney endorses a Democrat, and now all of a sudden, Democrats are shooting people. It's like the Dick Cheney story all over again. So for those who didn't see, this is kind of a fun one. I'm trying to wrap my mind around what was going on during this photo op. But so Adam Kinzinger, also known Never Trumper, and this guy who's running against Josh Hawley. Josh, you know who I'm talking about?
Yep.
Lucas Kuntz.
He's running out of the Senate race in Missouri. He's got no chance.
Good luck against Josh Hawley and Harrison Butker. But okay, so let's just break this. I'm not even a big gun guy. I mean, I own guns. So we have a long barrel rifle here. We have a insanely large scope to shoot from.
And he's 10 feet away.
This looks like 10 feet away of what's going on here.
Dangerous.
Look at how he's got it up to his face. There's explosives on this table.
Oh my gosh.
There's tannerite here. He's shooting at steel with a bullet.
10 feet away.
10 feet away. Sure enough, Lucas Kuntz right here, he shoots at this, it ricochets and hits a journalist. And so the journalist got shot.
Oh my gosh.
And coincidence, I don't know.
I didn't know that was going to be a good part to the story. No,
Liz Cheney endorsed, and the Cheneys have a history of shooting people that they go shooting with. I don't know. I just had to bring that up. Also, I watched the JD Vance and Theo Von interview, and I just have to keep bringing this up because it's the best. They talked about lobbyists. Sorry, Tom McCluskey. He said,
"Hey, McCluskey,
the
only good lobbyist.
You can spot a lobbyist in D.C. based on who has an ill-fitting suit and an ugly tie." which I thought was pretty funny. But then you go to the top
Excellent.
comment. I highly recommend the interview. It was great. This is what I'm going to leave you all with. I can't believe that I was told this guy was weird. Most normal MF I've ever heard talk.
It's true. JD Vance is so normal.
I want to go back to your Cheney thing for a second.
Please do.
That the guy with the Young Turks, I don't even know how to say his name.
Cenk.
He said, "There's no force on earth that can get me to vote for Trump. But name Cheney as your Secretary of Defense, and I'll find another option."
There you
To
go.
all the Democratic morons in D.C., the entire country hates Dick Cheney. His favorability in the last poll was 13%. Please stop trying to lose. This is a guy who is a total lefty, and he's just like, how are you guys? Why are you support? She's been campaigning with Liz Cheney like they're running mates. That's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
That's true. That actually is a good point.
Well, and the way that she's built it is I can build consensus. Look, I have Republicans campaigning for me. Like, this is not consensus. You've always just been the uniparty. Like,
we traded Tulsi Gabbard for Liz Cheney. Greatest
fair
trade of all
trade.
time.
I would have traded Liz Cheney for a bubblegum wrapper.
I mean, this is the greatest trade deal in the history of trade deals, in the word of Trump.
I mean, dude.
If it's any clearer to anyone who's the party of war right now, it's the ones endorsed by the most notorious war family of all time, the Cheney family.
Yeah.
And it's the Democrats. Gosh, I just don't want to be drafted. Seriously, I just don't want to be drafted. I don't want my kids to be drafted. I don't want to go to war. Yeah. This is so stupid. Also, that Goldblum guy who wrote The Attack. He was all in on going into Iraq. Cheney, all in on going into Iraq. I mean, my God.
It's almost like there's a lot of money in Washington for war. Who would have thought?
I know.
Money.
And also Trump, who they're disparaging about the military. How many wars happened during?
Oh, that's zero.
How many did he start? Zero.
Zero. All right. Well, this was a fun show.
I had a good time.
Had a great time. Thank you for joining us today. If you'd like to help us out, like the episode, subscribe, leave us reviews, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. You can email me, loopcast@catholicvote.org. If there's any other superintendents in the audience that would like to refute what we were talking about, happy to hear from you. Actually, again, I really do appreciate that guy, and I want more people to write in adversarial emails so we can talk about it. I actually think it's a lot of fun. No hard feelings. So pray for us. You can join the Champions Club. That's what helps out the most. Shout out to all the champions in here. But of course, pray for us. Pray for the country. St. Thomas More, Our Lady of Guadalupe, St. Fidelis. Pray for us. We will see you guys. Actually, I have a special interview. It might come out Thursday or Saturday. I'm not sure. I found the guy that was on the CNN panel, or he found us, Ryan James Gordusky, and he is a riot. We talked about
he's awesome.
He was so funny. So
all he's doing lately on CNN is posting W's.
It's the best. He went on again. So I talked to him in the morning, and then he's like, "Yeah, I'm going on CNN tonight." I was like, "Godspeed."
He killed it.
He
killed it.
Catholic,
I don't know how he has the patience, because I would lose my mind.
He likes fights. You can tell. But anyway, so we're working on editing that up. That'll be up as a special one either Thursday or Saturday. But cool. Well, thank you guys, and we'll see you guys